Bruce, you must have something really good too.
Of course I do. It's Bruce Danielson, and I guess I'm here to entertain you too.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, June 7, Sioux Falls City Council meeting. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll go ahead and get started by reading our roll, please.
Council members McCurris.
Here.
Neisert.
Here.
Selberg.
Here.
Sale.
Here.
Starr.
Here.
Barranco.
Here.
Cole. Here. Jensen.
Here. All right, with us tonight to give her invocation is Erica Varco. She's the pastor at the Table Ministry. Erica, thanks for being here. I'd ask that you stand for that invocation and then stay standing for our Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Let us pray. Dear Jesus, tonight we lift up our local leaders. We pray for our mayor, city council, and all who serve our local communities. Strengthen them with wisdom and grace for the heavy burdens they carry, and that even though they may not always know what to do in tough times, may their eyes be fixed on you. Help them to serve with love, fairness, and humility. Keep their hearts pure and their eyes turned toward your face as they work in the best interests of the people they are called to serve. Bring them understanding, bring them comfort, bring them peace. We thank you, Lord, for meeting them where they are, granting all of your wisdom, strength, faithfulness, integrity, and rest to those in this room and those leading our city. Help them all to receive and overflow. We pray all of this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good to see you, Greg. Thanks. Good to see you. You take care. We're always praying for you.
All right, thanks, Erica, for the invocation. We'll move on to item 4, which is our consent agenda. Any changes to the consent agenda tonight?
Move approval.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Sale to approve that. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote, please.
Council members McCurris.
Yes.
Neisert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Barranco.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. We will skip all the way ahead to item 45 then, which is our regular agenda. Look for a motion there, please.
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Jensen.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the regular agenda by placing agenda item 77 immediately before agenda item 46.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen, seconded by Sale to move that item. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote on that, please.
Council members McCurris.
Yes.
Neisert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Barranco.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that amendment passes 8-0. Any other changes to make tonight? All right, let's vote on the main motion then as amended.
Council members McCurris.
Yes.
Neisert.
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Starr.
Yes.
Barranco.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Before we move on to the regular agenda, just want to review public input for our meeting tonight. For regular agenda items, comments are limited to 3 minutes unless the item is being presented for final adoption, in which case public input is limited to 5 minutes. And for all of our regular agenda items, comments are limited to the agenda item under consideration only. With that being said, we'll move on to item 77, which was moved by amendment.
Item 77 is a motion to provide advice and consent to the mayor's appointment of city directors, including Charles Chima, Public Health Director, Mark Cotter, Director of Public Works, Jeff Eckhoff, Director of Planning and Development Services, Jody Fick, Director of Siouxland Libraries, Michael Grisby, Director of Innovation and Technology, Don Kearney, Director of Parks and Recreation, Stacy Koistra, City Attorney, Mac McCary, Fire Chief, Bill O'Toole, Director of Human Resources, Sean Pritchett, Director of Finance, and Jonathan Thum, Police Chief.
All right, I'm going to pass the gavel on this. I'm going to actually probably have to speak to this one. Is that all right if you chair this item, Council Chair Sale? Per charter, when a mayor is elected, he or she has to appoint or reappoint his or her directors and bring them to you as a council body for your consent and approval. I would ask that you would favorably reappoint this great group. First 4 years of office is a lot of time is spent building a team. We got a really fantastic team of leaders that have stepped up into these roles. It's been an honor to serve with them. I hope that you have found them to be good to work with, responsive to your questions, good leaders, good people of integrity, because I sure know I have, and I've really enjoyed my time with you all, and I look forward to the next 4 years as well in serving together. So my ask tonight is that you approve the reappointment of these fine leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we'll take public input on this subject.
Sarah Bruce at Sioux Falls. So I want to start off by saying some of these individuals was with the youth administration, okay? When Mayor Tinhaken came on board, some of the youth administration stayed, some of them have left, new administration has came in. I'm going to tell you, dealing with the youth administration was very tough. Let me tell you. It's a fighting battle with them, with the youth administration. So then, when Paul Tinhaken came on board, and he, so say, cleaned house internally or whatever he did to move these people around, it became very good. We have a good chief of policemen, and when I say good chief of policemen, it's because he's internal and external. We have a good fire department chief. Then the last one. We had hiccups in the fire department, but the fire department's not perfect, right? And then we have some of them that was with the youth administration that has come a long way in talking to the citizens, communicating with citizens, and problem solving within communities. Some of these individuals did not do that under the youth administration. So I see changes in this administration. Is this administration perfect? Absolutely not. But it's way in the hell better than the youth administration. Tinhaken has been here for 4 years, and maybe not everything that he says during his campaign we're seeing results in, but we're seeing results in new leadership. New leadership for the best of the city of Sioux Falls. We always have to get leaders to collaborate and listen to the citizens, and not say, this is what we're going to do and to help with the citizens because we're government and this is how we're going to roll. Mayor Tinhaken and Erica Beck and most of his directors have been very cooperative with me and Pettigrew. They've been very cooperative with other citizens throughout the city. I wish if we did not have an 8-year term and there was no term limit on mayor, I think that this mayor would be reelected every 4 years continuously. Sure, we had bumps in city government. When Mayor Tinhaken came in, he had all those legal allegations that Mayor Uther put on his back that people wasn't agreeing with. But it wasn't his idea. It's because he had all that baggage that he had to clean up. The bunker ramp on top of everything else that was happening in the city that was not under his watch. It was from the previous mayor's watch here. So the city is very fortunate to have these directors into place, internal and external, especially that police department. They're lucky to have Chief Toom into that position that he's in. And I don't think it would have happened under Mayor Uther's watch. I don't think it would happen that change was coming internally under the Mayor Uther administration. It took the Tinhaken administration to change this leadership in the right direction that it needed to go into. Now, some of them, I don't know what happens behind closed doors, and it's not none of my business, but I know that there's change, and I see changes happening, and we don't need to know the details of it, but I think that the change is good, and hopefully it continues moving forward on good administration here. And again, we have to listen to the citizens in the neighborhoods, because people live there, they live it, they see it, and they're in the middle of this. They have to listen to the citizens, and we have to work together with city government, and city government has to work with the citizens of the city of Sioux Falls here.
Anyone else for public input on this subject? Hearing none. Councilors, questions, or can we get a motion?
Move approval. Second, Jensen.
Moved and seconded. Discussion, council members? Councilor Selberg?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd maybe just make a quick statement. I've had the pleasure of working with most of these folks on a number of occasions over my years of service, and I've found them always knowledgeable and helpful and people of integrity, and I'm glad they're here serving our city, and I'm glad you want to continue to serve our city. So I do think the mayor is well served with these folks, and I will wholeheartedly support this. So thank you, and thank you all.
Other council members? Seeing none, can we have a vote, please?
Council members McCarris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes?
Star, Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That motion is passed 8-0. Congratulations.
All right, thank you. Be there at 7:30 tomorrow. Move on to our next item, please.
Item 46 is a new 2022 retail wine and cider license, off-sale use only for Casey's Retail Company, 5810 East 26th Street, CUP not required. Item 47 is a new 2022 retail wine and cider license, off-sale use only for Casey's Retail Company, 4001 West 57th Street, CUP not required. Item 48 is a new 2022 retail wine and cider license, off-sale use only for Casey's Retail Company, 8400 West 26th Street, CUP not required. Item 49 is a transfer of 2022 retail liquor license from Main and Main Spring Hill Suites, 4304 West Empire Place to Trifecta Holdings Incorporated, Crown Casino Ellis 3, 2920 South Ellis Road. Item 50 is transfer of 2022 package liquor license from Anuvic LLC, Food and Fuel, 2505 West Russell Street to MG Oil Company, Corner Pantry 31, 2505 West Russell Street. Item 51 is transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license and transfer of 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license, including video lottery terminals from Golden Coin Casino Incorporated, 2505 West Russell Street, Suite 101 to MG Oil Company, Joker's Casino 31, 2505 West Russell Street, Suite 101. Item 52 is transfer of 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license and transfer of 2022 retail wine and cider license from Black Events and Advertising Escapades, 3509 South Norton Avenue to Black LLC Escapades, 3509 South Norton Avenue. Item 53 is transfer of 2021-22 retail malt beverage South Dakota Farm wine license, including video lottery terminals, from Hungry's Restaurants, 3850 North Cliff Avenue to Skydine Incorporated, 3850 North Cliff Avenue. Item 54 is a request to add video lottery terminals with the 2022 retail liquor license for Shenanigans Pub Incorporated, 1903 South Ellis Road. Item 55 is a special one-day malt beverage and special one-day wine licenses for Sioux Falls Sister Cities to be operated at Avera IT Parking Lot, 212 East 11th Street and Faywick Park, 200 South 2nd Avenue, and on South 2nd Avenue between East 10th Street and South 3rd Avenue for German Fest on September 10th, 2022. Item 56 is a special one-day malt beverage license for Covert Artesian Ales to be operated at 401 East 8th Street parking lots for Sioux Falls Pride on June 18th, 2022.
Jamie, good evening.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on items 46 through 56.
All right, anyone from the public who would like to speak on items 46 through 56? All right, Council, you have any questions for Jamie on any of these? Councilor Starr?
Yeah, actually, Jamie, the applicant for 55 for German Fest.
I do not see her. Is it a question?
All
I
right,
can
someone
answer?
from Pride then? Is Sioux Falls Pride either?
I do not see them. Is it a question I can answer?
Yeah, let's try. More that the security plans that go with them, or to make sure that, underage drinking and the space. I guess my concern isn't necessarily the events, but it's the lack of space that we're finding ourselves in as we bring more events to downtown. We're losing some of those spaces for large events. Where do you put Pride? They've worked out a deal with their, for the parade and some of the 8th and Railroad things and some after parties and the events through the whole thing. German Fest, it's always really packed in the flow of alcohol from one place to the next. And so I guess that's my concern, is that, and not as much of a question for you probably then, as much as a statement of making sure that we've got space available for these groups to continue to have these downtown events, because it's a big part of our downtown.
I will share with you that all of these special events that happen on city-owned property have to go through our special events committee. And there's a committee of several people on there: police, fire, engineering, myself, ADA, everybody. We get in all one group, and the presenter comes in and talks about their event and what's going to happen. Each of us discuss different concerns with them. One of the concerns with alcohol is that we try to stress that there's always a boundary to their event, but that their alcohol boundary should be smaller than their actual boundary, and that they are responsible to put security at different areas throughout that boundary to make sure that the alcohol doesn't leave their premise, because these license types does make them an on-sale premise for that perimeter. So if that helps maybe answer.
No, it does. It's just the success of our downtown is starting to squeeze some of these large events, that see thousands of people that are attending them. And so trying to make sure that we give them what they need to run a successful event, and at the same time, our role in making sure that there's security plans in place and all the team is in place to do those things. So I think as we continue the density of downtown, it's going to be harder and harder to find a place that's available for these events that have gotten so large, and a big part of what our community expects and enjoys is being in Sioux Falls. So that's my statement. Thank you. Other questions for Jamie on this? Any of these applicants? All right. Look for
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Nitzert.
Motion by Jensen, seconded by Nitzert. Any discussion, council, there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Next item is 57, a second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located south of East 85th Street and east of South Minnesota Avenue from the AG Agriculture and C4 Commercial Regional to the RA1 Apartment Residential Low Density and C4 Commercial Regional Districts, number 16121, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants, Ackerson Properties, H.A. Ackerson.
Jason, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Jason Bieber with Planning and Development Services. This is an application, and the owner is H.A. Ackerson. It's located south of West 85th Street and east of South Minnesota Avenue. It's about 3.14 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is they're looking to zone some recently annexed property within this development.
All right. Anyone from the public who would like to speak to item 57 here? Council, you have any questions for Jason on this one?
Move approval?
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Sale. Discussion, council, on this one? All right, let's vote, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 58 is the second reading. An ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 623 East 21st Street from the RS Single Family Residential Suburban District to the RHP Single Family Residential Historic Preservation District, number 16166, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants, Kyle Hilsebeck.
The applicant and owner here is Kyle Hilsebeck. It's located at 623 East 21st Street, just east of the McKinnon Park tennis courts. It's about 0.16 acres in size. The purpose of this request is the applicant's looking to rezone their property, similar to other single-family historic preservation lots that we did in this neighborhood roughly 2 years ago.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Council got any questions for Jason on 58? All right, look for a motion.
Move approval, Nitzert. Second, McCoris.
All right, motion by Nitzert, second by McCoris. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 59 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 1903 and 1909 East Tracy Lane from the RT1 Single Family Residential Traditional District to the RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban District, number 16217-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants G&D Har Construction LLC, Gary Har.
The applicant here is Gary Har. The owner is Harold Godin. It's located at 1903 and 1909 East Tracy Lane. It's about 0.5 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is there's an existing twin home on the north portion of this lot that's zoned single family, so we're correcting that zoning. And then there's a vacant parcel to the south of that existing twin home, and the applicant's looking at constructing a new twin home on that lot.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on 59 tonight? Council got any questions on this item?
Move approval?
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Sale. Any discussion on that motion? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item.
Next item is item 60, a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located north of West 60th Street North and east of North Career Avenue from the I-1 Light Industrial and I-2 Heavy Industrial Districts to the CN Conservation I-1 Light Industrial and I-2 Heavy Industrial Districts, number 16227-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants, SCH Incorporated, Carrie Franklin.
The applicant here is Kerry Franklin. The owner is Brian Bachman with Enclave Development, It's located at the northeast corner of North Career Avenue and West 60th Street North, just east of the Walmart up there. It's about 11.5 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is they're looking to just rezone some conservation areas within the development that's going to be used for drainage.
All right, thanks, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one? Any questions here, council? All right, look for a motion, please.
Move approval, Sale.
Second, Cole.
All right, motion by Sale, second by Cole. Any discussion on that? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Next item is 61, a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota rezoning property located at 1001 and 1003 North Minnesota Avenue from the O Office District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District, number 16248-2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants, JSA Consulting Engineers Land Surveyors Incorporated, Pat Schwabach.
The applicant is Pat Schwabach. The owner is Grant Howman. It's located at 1001 and 1003 North Minnesota Avenue. It's about 0.32 acres in size. The purpose of this rezoning is with the upgrade to Minnesota Avenue. All of the on-street parking is going to be going away for this existing strip center. And the same owner does own that strip center as these two parcels. So they are looking at moving those two houses to some more desirable single-family lots within the city and then constructing additional parking lot for that strip center to the north.
All right, thank you, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on this one tonight? Any questions tonight here, council?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Neitzer, go ahead.
do you know how many approximately, and maybe the applicant knows if they're here, do you know how many spots they're losing on street?
I think when I kind of looked at that, because you asked that question earlier, I was like 13 or so spots on street. And if you guys have ever been up there, it's a pretty full parking lot all the time. So they need that additional parking with what we're losing on street. And then from a planning perspective, we can move those single-family houses to areas within the city that are more prone and more better for single-family than on one of our major corridors like this.
Yeah, and I'll probably support this, but I'm not jumping up and down about it. The houses should move, but just from a city perspective, we're making a significant investment in Minnesota, and that should be a catalyst for more property tax, more density, and this actually takes us, well, I talked to the assessor. It's going to be about a wash because it'll become commercially zoned, so it'll have more value, but we're losing structure value. But it does take us, we should, hopefully someday there will be more than just a parking lot here. This would be, it's not what I like to see. Is it appropriate, quote unquote? Yes, but it's not what I would like to see for a return on investment, so.
Any other questions on this item?
Move approval?
Second call.
Motion by Selberg, seconded by Councilor Cole. Any discussion on that motion? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that one's going to pass 8-0. Move to item 62.
Item 62 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located south of West Maple Street and east of North La Mesa Drive from the CN Conservation RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RD2 Residential Suburban Townhouse, and LW Live Work Districts to the CN Conservation RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, and RD2 Residential Suburban Townhome, and LW Live Work Districts, number 16297, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants, DGR Engineering, Jesse Morris.
The applicant here is Jesse Morris. The owner is Eric Christensen. This is located west of North Marion Road and south of West Maple Street, just south and east of McGovern Middle School. It's about 72 acres in size, and you can see with this map in front of you, it's really just some small boundary line adjustments for this Jefferson Heights residential development up here.
All right, anyone from the public to speak on 62 here? All right, council, any questions tonight? For a motion here to approve?
Move approval?
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Jensen and seconded by Sale. Any discussion there? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 63 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located at 1801 North Marion Road from the LW Live Work District to the C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar District, number 16303, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants, Lloyd Companies, Luke Jessen.
The applicant and owner here is Luke Jessen with Lloyd Companies. This one is located just to the east of the one we just talked about, just west of Jefferson High School. It's about 7.75 acres in size, and they're looking to rezone this to construct some future retail development along Marion Road.
All right, thank you, Jason. Anyone from the public here to speak on 63 tonight? All right, council, any questions on this item?
Move approval, Nitzert?
Second call.
All right, motion by Nitzert, seconded by Cole. Any discussion there? All right, hearing none, let's vote on that one, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Item 64.
Item 64 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, rezoning property located north of East Madison Street and east of Veterans Parkway from the CN Conservation RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RD2 Residential Suburban Townhome, RA2 Residential Apartments Moderate Density, LW Live Work, and C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar Districts, to the CN Conservation RS Single Family Residential Suburban, RD1 Twin Home Duplex Residential Suburban, RD2 Residential Suburban Townhome, RA2 Residential Apartments Moderate Density, LW Live Work C2 Commercial Neighborhood and Streetcar, and I-1 Light Industrial Districts number 16304, 2022, and amending the official zoning map of the City of Sioux Falls. The Planning Commission recommends approval 6-0. Private applicants, Nielsen Development LLC, Kelly Nielsen.
The applicant and owner here is Kelly Nielsen. It's located north of East Madison Street and east of Veterans Parkway. It's about 88 acres in size. This purpose of this application is to do some boundary line adjustments for this East Prairie addition along the east side of Sioux Falls.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 64 here? Council, any questions for Jason on this one?
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor Starr?
Yes, I know it's still existing ag, but the strip between the conservation, I mean, when it becomes calving season and calving weaning season and they continue to use that and we're going to start putting single family houses right across from it, it still, I mean, shouldn't that become a more either residential or a commercial area and do that at the same time? It just, because it allows them to do some things. Again, it's in the city, and leaving it ag kind of opens it up to some, well, I believe there's cattle there now. If there's not, there usually is most of the summer. I mean, and as we allow them to develop it, it's cool for a while for the kids to see the animals across the street and have a petting zoo, but at the same time, it really does affect the neighborhood then, or the new neighborhood.
Yeah, and I believe that might be a misprint on there with our GIS, because I thought that was zoned as conservation. That's the plan for that area, and I can go back and verify that. But the applicant is doing some drainage stuff through there because all of his higher end lots are adjacent to that area that we show as ag, but it might be conservation in there already, or if not, then he does need to zone it to conservation.
Okay, because it does have some ravines and it does have a lot of water that travels through there, so.
Yep, I'll check on that. It might just be something got missed in GIS. But.
Other questions tonight for Jason on this item? I look for a motion.
Move approval, Jensen.
Second, Cole.
Motion by Jensen, seconded by Cole. Any discussion on that motion? All right, let's vote, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item.
65 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, authorizing the mayor to enter into a Tomar Park Tennis Complex naming agreement between the City of Sioux Falls and the Sioux Falls Tennis Association. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
Tori, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Tori Miedema, Park Development Specialist for the City of Sioux Falls. The item today is Tomar Park naming agreement. So just a little bit of history. The City of Sioux Falls and the Sioux Falls Tennis Association entered into a gifting agreement in 2021. That gifting agreement allowed SFTA to construct a 12-court tennis complex in Tomar Park. It also allowed them to sell naming rights to help bolster their fundraising drive. And so basically the project that they're looking at is about a $2.5 million project. They would fully fund that phase of the project. And then when they're done, the improvements would be gifted to the city and become city assets. One other piece is that the City of Sioux Falls agreed to fund $512,000 in 2023, or in 2022, and $200,000 in 2023 to help enhance the tennis complex and also replace neighborhood park improvements that were displaced with the tennis complex. Basically, those improvements are like basketball court, sand volleyball court, picnic shelter, adding some additional parking, that type of stuff. And that'll be a separate project from the tennis complex. Onto the naming agreement. The main terms of the agreement, Tom Walsh with the Great Life Cares Foundation donated $750,000 to Sioux Falls Tennis Association for the tennis complex project in return for naming rights. So the naming rights would be Great Life Cares Foundation Tennis Complex at Tomar Park. The Sioux Falls Tennis Association would pay for the construction and installation of all signage associated with the naming rights, and they would also be responsible for the routine maintenance and repair of the signage. We worked with the Sioux Falls Tennis Association and Great Life Cares to come up with a signage package that was good for the park and worked for the naming rights. So two pieces. First is a monument sign that's about 5 foot tall by 16 foot long. That would be at the southwest corner of the complex. And then there would also be some graphics on the windscreen that would be attached to the fence on the complex. And that signage would be basically about 7 feet tall by 23 feet long. Both of these signs would also have the City of Sioux Falls logo on it, as well as the Sioux Falls Tennis Association logo. The naming rights terms would be for the useful life of the improvements, which we're estimating at about 25 to 30 years. And in May of 2022, the Park Board heard this item as well and recommended approval to the City Council. This is just a graphic showing the monument sign that's proposed. As you can see, it's 5 foot by 16 foot. And then this is the graphic showing the graphics that would be on the windscreen. Again, about 7 feet tall by about 23 feet long. And then this graphic shows basically where it goes. The road on the bottom is Twin Oaks Road, and to the left of the complex is the main entrance into Tomar Park. The two red boxes on the bottom would be that signage. The one on the west would be the monument, and then the other one would be on the windscreen. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I also have Lydia Healy, the president of the Sioux Falls Tennis Association, here in case you have any questions for her.
All right, thanks, Tori. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? Council, you got any questions for Mr. Miedema here on this one?
Question, is this already under construction? Is that what's going on?
Correct.
Okay, yeah.
Yep, they got a great jump on construction. All the courts are already poured. They're just starting to work on utilities and foundations. It's going really good.
Good work.
Other questions for Tori on this item? Look for a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Call.
All right, motion by Selberg, second by Barranco, I believe that was. And that motion is to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 14. Any discussion on that? All right, let's take a vote on it, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Barranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 66 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, conveying certain real property by quitclaim deed to the state of South Dakota pursuant to SDCL 655 and 912.5. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
Hey, Mark.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This item on item 69, item 66 is here essentially to correct an oversight. Part of a previous agreement we had with the Department of Transportation required the transfer of the right-of-way for 60th Street North. When the DOT transferred that right-of-way to us, they also included the legal description of the interstate system. That was an oversight. They didn't intend to do that, and they'd like it back. And so I'm here to represent it on the first reading. Engineering will be here next week for the second reading, but with your support, we will essentially deed the orange section back to the Department of Transportation.
All right. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item? Council, got any questions on this? Councilor Neitzer, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we have enough roads to plow and maintain, so I will make a motion to move this to a second reading.
Second call.
All right. Motion by Neitzer, seconded by Cole to set a second reading for Tuesday, June 14. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item.
67 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, repealing sections 111.012 and 111.015 in Chapter 111, alcoholic beverages of the Code of Ordinances of said city. Recommendation, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. In 2019, the council placed a hold on the section of ordinances that we're speaking here tonight about 111.0112 was the waiting list for off-sale liquor, and section 111.015 was the waiting list for the on-sale liquor. And in 2019, the council voted to place a hold on adding names to that list. And at that time, they also put a note at the bottom that this section needs to be repealed when all names are cleared from that list. And that has been done. All names are cleared. So this proposal before you tonight is simply to repeal those sections.
All right, thank you, Jamie. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 67? Council, got any questions on this item here? All right, I'd look for a motion, set a
Move
date of
approval,
second
Cole.
reading for Tuesday, June 14. Moved by Councilor Cole,
Second, Jensen.
second by Jensen. Any discussion there? All right, hearing none, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Move to item 68.
Item 68 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of South Dakota, of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the Code of Ordinances of the city by amending Chapter 121, Medical Cannabis Regulations. Recommendation is to set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 14th, 2022. Sponsor is the mayor.
Hi, Jamie.
Good evening, Jamie Palmer with licensing. I am here to speak to you or give you a brief summary of the ordinance changes that will that are before you tonight for first reading. I know City Attorney Stacy Questra gave a presentation earlier today, and so this is going to be much shorter than that. So, okay. This slide shows the legislative amendments that have gone before the state and are approved. They will go into effect on July 1. They are in conflict with our ordinance currently as it is written. I will review these in the order that they appear in our ordinances versus the number that they appear on the screen. Senate Bill 24 changes or will change the number of plants. It previously was 3, and now they have changed it to 2 flowering plants and 2 cannabis plants that are not flowering. This addition required us to also add a definition of a flowering cannabis plant. Senate Bill 23 was an act to revise the definition of a bona fide practitioner-patient relationship. It's a lot of language on that slide, so I apologize. I'm not going to read all that to you. But in short, it provides additional specifications and requirements for the practitioner and patient relationship. Senate Bill 19 is an act to permit certain facilities to establish reasonable restrictions related to the medical use of cannabis. In short, this specifically lists the facilities that designated caregivers can assist more than 5 qualifying patients. And I believe Stacy went into a little more detail on that this afternoon. Senate Bill 26 is an act to revise the definition of a practitioner for the purposes of the medical cannabis program. Previously, this stated physician. Now it states physician assistant or advanced practice registered nurse as well. Senate Bill 4 is an act to revise provisions related to a written certification for medical use of cannabis. In short, this eliminates the representation of a likely benefit from the use of medical cannabis. Senate Bill 10 is an act to revise provisions related to verifications required prior to receiving medical cannabis. In short, this is a requirement that they show a photo ID along with their valid registration card from the state in order to enter the cannabis dispensary. Senate Bill 5 is an act to revise acceptable conduct related to the medical use of cannabis. And there's a few changes in here. One, it simply adds vaping to the prohibition of smoking on a public transportation. And there's a change that adds testing facilities to the section where it discusses advertising limitations. And it also adds possession, transfer, and display or transportation to the potential employer prohibitions. Very quick, but Stacy did a much better job this afternoon. But I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thanks, Jamie.
Oh.
Go ahead, ma'am.
May I excuse me. I know there was a couple of questions this afternoon, and I did research them a little bit. So if I can, I would like to answer those. There was a question about the renewal and revocation process. So there is a suspension and revocation process outlined in our ordinance. It doesn't just need to occur at renewal time. It can occur at any time. Anytime there's a violation, this can happen. So the license holder would receive a notification of the recommendation to suspend or revoke, informing them of their violation. A report would be given to the city council, and the city council would conduct a public hearing to make final determination. So again, that can happen anytime, not necessarily just at renewal time, which is different than alcoholic beverage licensing. And it's just for a note, suspension would last for 30 days, and a revocation would be a year. And then I believe there was a question about records and keeping a log of who would enter the facility. The only thing I did find in our ordinance, there is a requirement for them to keep a visitor log, but that is very specific on who it has to be listed, and it specifically states emergency personnel would have to be listed. Authorized visitors such as contractors or vendors would have to be, they all have to be 21 years of age, and they all have to be accompanied by a medical cannabis establishment person. These names would have to be kept on a list, and they would have to be kept for at least 5 years by the facility. That's the only requirement in our ordinance that I found. I believe there is records that the state requires them to keep, but again, that would be on the state side and strictly confidential. It's the state side, we would not have access to those. I believe that was it.
Yeah, all right. No, thank you, Jamie. Actually, anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? All right, Council, do you have any questions for Jamie on this? Councilor Starr?
Yep, just to follow that just a little bit. So the records are required to be kept, but are they private business, confidential, or who has access then to that list or could potentially have access to that list of who's on it?
I didn't have a lot of time to research, but I did find a specific reference to a confidential list, and that is kept, it talked about a confidential list of anybody that had a registry card issued by the state, and that is strictly held confidential by the state. Nobody would have access to that.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jamie here? All right, I would look for a motion, set a date of second reading for Tuesday, June 14.
So moved, Jensen.
Second, Selberg.
Motion by Jensen, seconded by Selberg. Discussion, council, on this item? All right, let's take a vote, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 69 is a resolution declaring it necessary to levy and levying a frontage assessment against the lots, tracts, and parcels of land fronting and abutting upon 21st Street from Phillips Avenue to 7th Avenue in the city of Sioux Falls for the purpose of maintaining, planting, and otherwise improving and caring for the center parkways and boulevard thereon.
Kelby, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. Kelby Maris with Parks and Recreation. This resolution would levy assessments on 53 properties along 21st Street. It would be assessed at 85 cents per front foot. This assessment has been in place since 1915, and the rate has not changed since 1998. I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thanks, Kelby. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item? Council, you got any questions for Kelby on 69 here? All right.
Move approval. Sale.
Second, McCorris.
All right, motion by Sale, second by McCurris to approve item 69. Any questions or discussion? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Item 70.
Item 70 is a resolution amending the SHAPE Sioux Falls 2040 Comprehensive Plan. Sponsor is the mayor.
Jeff, good evening.
Good evening, Jeff Schmidt, representing Planning and Development Services this evening. We brought this before the informational a month or so ago and bringing it forward as a resolution tonight for your acceptance. The SHAPE Sioux Falls 2025 and 2035 plan has been going through this process for quite a few years. Back in 2016, we had it approved, and then in 2019, we adopted the maps. And in the document itself, it says we would like to update these maps on an annual basis. This is really so that we can be transparent and let everybody know that what is being completed and constructed as well as what needs to be completed and constructed. So the higher aspect here is we have 3 tiers of growth, with the first tier being in your CIP. So this is what you have budgeted for completion in the next 5 years. And then the next time frame is outside of that 5-year time period, 6 to 15 years, because there's additional money required to complete these projects. And then the following one is 16 to 25 years because there's even more funding needed to complete those areas. So we color coordinate the maps and show people so everybody will know what area is developable and what time periods they're developable. Where we have allocated funds, it doesn't mean that there's areas that can't be developed. It means there's additional funding that needs to be allocated into those areas, mostly by the public, which is us as taxpayers, but sometimes it's the development community that will come and say, well, can we fund a certain utility so that this area is open for development? This is map 2A, which is the one that we refer to the most, and in my next 2 items, I'll be using this map to show you how we're implementing for annexation. And we look at it and we go, this area is in a tier 1 or this area is in a tier 3, and it's able to be developed or not. Then what we look at is really sanitary sewer, and if sanitary sewer is available and in what time period. The following one is water and roads. We do the same thing. When is water going to be constructed in as a utility in a certain area? Then when are the roads going to be constructed? And roads are a really good analogy because that's a constrictor for a lot of areas because we won't let land develop onto a gravel system. They have to be in a hard system road. So that's one of those things that you really look at in your capital improvement program. And then lastly, what we try to do, and this one's probably the most challenging, is we look at all of our public facilities and our drainage areas. So public facilities include schools, fire stations, libraries, and parks. So then same thing, is it's funded within a 5-year time period, 6 to 15 years, or 16 to 25 years. And then we allocate those. And this one's probably the one that we have to spend more time on getting it updated. But it is probably out to 10 years, pretty accurate. And final, what we wanted to do is we wanted to get this out to the public, have them, because we hadn't updated it since 2019, have them look at it, have it adopted, have it reviewed by you for a resolution to get it done here in June so that you would have it available for your public hearings going into September. And then once public hearings are done with the capital improvement program in September, we're going to start the process over again, because at that point your 5-year CIP would be completed. We'd be able to say what's going to be constructed, what's not constructed, and start the process over again and get back on that annual cycle. So that's what we're trying to do.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 70? Counselors, you have any questions for Jeff here? Counselor Starr?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Schmidt, can you go back to the last map that had schools and the final services for that part of it? I guess that's one of the things that I've been spending some time thinking about as we make zoning changes when we go backwards, and reviewing to make sure that schools are in place and some of those things, that if we go from single family to multifamily and adding some of those, do we, from a planning perspective, go backwards and take a look at, is that part of the process of saying, yeah, it really makes sense to take this single family or what was zoned single family and change it to a multifamily, and make sure that those services are in place for people as they try to develop land?
Yes, is the quick answer. We're always looking at where we have the existing infrastructure and those existing resources have already been allocated. So it's really important to do that. At the same time, when you look at parks, libraries, those big infrastructure, schools, they have a change process where, a lot of times as the population ages, they don't have as many school-aged children, but if we can get some more more kids moving into the neighborhood, or more apartments, higher density, maybe you can have more kids going before the schools just say, well, we have decreasing enrollments here, so we need to close these schools. We're like, but you already have the capital there. So can we continue to have the capital instead of closing this capital and moving the capital elsewhere? We have those discussions, but again, highlighting, even on this map, there's 7 different school districts that we have in the city of Sioux Falls. And as I say all the time, it's hard to work with 7 different school boards, because the boards change so frequently, and every time you're trying to get out there, there's a new turnover, and trying to explain to them that we have houses coming into this area, this is really where we need a new school, and they say, yeah, but we'd like a school over here.
But that's not where the kids are going to be.
Correct. And then you have that discussion, and we don't control school districts. We can just talk and have discussions.
Thank you.
Yep.
Counselor Branco?
I didn't have a question. I just want to say thank you very much for giving me the enlarged version. These tired eyes, definitely appreciate that. Appreciate that.
Other questions for Jeff tonight on this item? Counselor McCurris, go ahead.
Has there been conversation about how the funding from the state, I know there's a lot of controversy regarding the funding from the state for development, matched by the developer, matched by the city, matched by the state. Maybe this is a question for Director Eckhoff, but is that funding going to accelerate any of these pieces from one tier to the next tier, depending upon if a developer steps forward and says, hey, I'm willing to put in here, if the city's willing to put in here, and then the state piece? How much does all that come into play on this?
Again, yes, is the answer, because even on here, this is the water and roads map. And you can see on here we have jointly funded projects listed on here. So when we're going through the CIP projects, we list on here, these are what's allocated in the 5-year program, and there may be some in the outlying areas that we think we're going to get state funding or federal funding for, but they're not allocated yet. So you can say this land's going to be available for development in the next 10 to 15 years, and Again, you're trying to be open and transparent and say, go out and buy the land, and then in 7 years, we come back, oh, by the way, it never got allocated, so now we don't have a hard surface road. And they go, but you showed us a map. We go, that's why it's a resolution. This is a plan. This isn't locked in, but we're trying to give you the best information we have. It really does depend on, do we have the funding available? It's not quite as difficult with the sewer and the water projects, because those are big, and when we fund them, they open a large area. But with the road projects, it's really critical. So that's, again, why we tried to get it to you now with the CIP discussions.
Other questions on item 70 for Jeff? I look for a motion here.
Move approval.
Second, Neitzer.
Motion by Selberg, seconded by Neitzer. Is there discussion on that? All right, let's take a vote then, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 71 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the City of Sioux Falls, Annexation 016521, 2022, Willow Ridge Edition, private applicants, Van Buskirk Companies.
So I have two annexations tonight, and knowing that we were just talking about the comp plan and timeframes, and we had some discussions about this, I won't show this every time we do annexations, but it is new and it's important to talk about. So when can you annex? State law really has two main criteria, and I've highlighted the two of them. The first thing is it has to be contiguous. You'll hear this from us all the time. The property has to be touching city limits to be able to annex. Yeah, I mean, it's just, that's a yes or no. It's black and white. When properties come and they go, hey, we want to come to city limits, and there's property that's separating us, it's not contiguous, we cannot annex them unless they're contiguous. So again, what I'm highlighting here also in the green is this is petitioned annexations, when people come to us, which is 98.5% of the stuff we do. The other aspect is much grayer, and this is where we'll have all of our annexation discussions, is you can do a resolution and annex property, you just need to let people know that there's a definitive timetable. And we always say, is the utilities going to get to them in a reasonable amount of time? You know, and they go, well, what's reasonable? What's definitive? Well, let's talk about tier maps. They go, I want to annex. And we're like, okay, we can annex you. We're going to get you services sometime. And they're like, well, give me a little more clarity on that. And so anytime that, you know, Jason's up here, Albert's up here, myself's up here, we kind of whip through that pretty quick. But we go, look, this is available. We're going to get them water and sewer. It's based upon these two things. So the first one, as we mentioned, is item 71. It's in the northeast part of town. This is 4 acres of property. It's going to be future residential development. This is Willow Ridge, and they're already doing existing residential developments, but they had a couple of pieces of land that they had not annexed yet. So they're bringing these forward to complete the annexation of this so that they can continue the residential development. It's in a tier 2. So what we're basically saying is, well, you know, you can do it, but there needs to be additional resources available. Well, those are their resources because they're not really doing anything additional. You look at all of that green. If someone was coming further to the east, we'd have to probably expand more water and sewer onto Madison or some of those issues. But really, they're taking all their development back into Willow Ridge. It's not our issue. It's not our concern. So they're able to move forward. And in all actuality, back in 2017, City Council approved this preliminary plan. And in the really fine print that I saw today, which I didn't even notice back in 2017, they said, hey, phase 18, we are going to do that with a future annexation. Well, here it is, 4 years later, they're ready to do phase 18.
Got it. All right, thanks, Jeff. Anyone from the public here to speak on item 71? Council got any questions for Jeff on this one? Look for a
Move
motion.
approval, Sale.
Second call.
Motion by Sale, seconded by Cole. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg.
Yes.
Sale.
Yes.
Star.
Yes.
Baranco.
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes. That passes 8-0. Item 72, please.
Item 72 is a resolution including certain contiguous territory within the corporate limits of the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, annexation 015896-2022, interstate crossings addition, private applicants, Interstate Crossings LLC.
So this is up in the northeast part of town. This is at Interstate 90 and 229 and Cliff Avenue. It's east of Granite Valley. This project is going to be light industrial, slab on grade, basically warehouse distribution area. They originally came in and they own Interstate Crossings as the applicant. They own the entire parcel. It's about 200 acres. And through the process of discussions with us, there's not infrastructure available for all 200 acres. So they're doing a phased approach, and they'll just do the 85 acres to begin with. So when I showed it the first time, I showed 145 acres, and it's all in Tier 3. But in all actuality, and I know I have this sideways, but this is how it was presented to us, and it does kind of read better this way. So on the left, which is on the south, this is phase 1. They're going to do that first, and it's going to be in 2022 and 2023, and all the roads lead back west into the existing industrial park, Granite Valley. And then phase 1B will be the subsequent year, and that also will be on Robar and go to the west. And then phase 3, which is 1C, isn't until 2024 and 2025. That cul-de-sacs, and that's on 67th Street. So when this annexation goes through, then they'll be able to bring their rezoning and preliminary plan through. Jason will be bringing those through at Planning Commission, City Council, and you'll see this preliminary plan at City Council at the beginning of August.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on item 72 tonight? Any questions here, Council? Councilor Starr?
Yep, Jeff, can you go back one slide? Because
Absolutely.
that makes it easier for me to understand. But as we put this industrial area here, isn't the future plans housing to the north and east of this? So we kind of how do we step it back or step it, the housing that goes around the industrial area that's going to kind of be in the middle of that type of area?
Yeah, really good question. So with the rezonings and with the preliminary plans, we built that into our zoning ordinance, that any industrial has to have a buffer yard or have to have those transitions around the residential. So we have that in the zoning ordinance. At the same time, this is an industrial area that has housing in it. So we don't discount that. That's important to understand. But with the rail that's up here, with the interstates that are up here, we really want to be able to accentuate that and put industrial here, versus if you put all single family here, we'd get a lot more concerns about having single family next to, high transportation modes. So this is where we want this industrial closer to that. We just need to make sure then they buffer next to any single family that comes in. This applicant actually looked at and they said, would we want to have workforce development, workforce housing up in this area so they wouldn't have to travel so far? But initial indications were that the neighborhood wasn't interested in more residential. They wanted just more jobs. So they were like, okay, first phase right now, we'll do just more demand for warehouse distribution. But if there's more demand in the future for more residential, we'll work that into the plan.
But I get the buffer areas, but will we look at it will we bring multifamily, duplex, and go the opposite direction away from them as that part of that buffer?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Other questions for Jeff on this item? Look for a motion here.
Move approval, Cole.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Cole, seconded by Councilor Sale. Any discussion on that? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg, Sale,
Yes.
Star,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Item 73, please.
Item 73 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Jefferson Heights Second Edition, 16298, 2022. Private applicants DGR Engineering, Jesse Morris.
This is the preliminary subdivision plan that went along with the rezoning that we heard earlier tonight. The applicant here is Jesse Morris. The owner is Eric Christensen. This is Jefferson Heights Edition. That's just south and east of McGovern Middle School. It's about 72 acres, and then they're just doing some minor boundary adjustments also with their preliminary subdivision plan.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone from the public wish to speak on 73 here? Any questions, council, for Mr. Bieber?
Move approval, Sale.
Second, Jensen.
Motion by Sale, seconded by Counselor Jensen. Any discussion there? All right, let's vote on that one, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg, Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item.
Item 74 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Ackerson's Edition, 15973, 2022. Private applicant Sayer Associates Incorporated, Paul Korn.
The applicant and owner here is H.A. Ackerson. This is also a preliminary plan that goes along with one of the rezonings we heard earlier. This is at the southeast corner of 85th Street and South Minnesota Avenue. It's about, they're adding an additional 3.14 acres to this subdivision, and then the future of this subdivision is to construct commercial, office, and residential development.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight? Any questions, council, on this one? All right, look for a motion, please.
Move approval, Sale.
Second, Cole.
All right, motion by Sale, seconded by Cole. Any discussion there, council? All right, let's vote on that, please.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes.
That passes 8-0. Item 75, excuse me.
Item 75 is a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of West Side Estates Edition, 15907, 2022. Private applicants Norman Engineering, Aaron Norman.
The applicant is Aaron Norman. The owner is Foundation Properties. This is located south of West 48th Street and east of South Ellis Road. It's about 4.5 acres of property. The purpose of this preliminary subdivision plan is to subdivide that 4.5 acres for 6 lots, and then the applicant is looking to construct a twin home on each of those lots.
All right, anyone from the public here to speak on 75? Council, any questions on this one?
Move approval. Second, Sale.
All right, motion by Selberg, seconded by Sale. Any discussion on the motion? All right, let's take a vote.
Councilmembers McCurris,
Yes.
Nitzert,
Yes.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Baranco,
Yes.
Cole, Jensen.
Yes.
All right, that passes 8-0. Next item, please.
Item 76 is a resolution authorizing a task force to study and recommend policies that will reduce homelessness over a 10-year period. Sponsors, council members McCurris and Sale.
Councilor McCurris, you going to
Thank you.
speak to this?
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Fellow councilors, this evening, the resolution that's put before you is pretty straightforward and intentionally simple to create a focused group of leaders in our community that would meet over a 6-month period with the goal of understanding what's going on in our community, what's been done in our community, and bringing forth some intentional plans that our mayor and council could act on together to reduce homelessness in our community over the next 10 years. Over 10 years ago, Mayor Munson approved a task force and established the Homeless Advisory Board, which developed a 10-year plan regarding homelessness. And then again in 2015, another plan was adopted. During all of that time, there's been multiple studies done by Augustana Research. Multiple other nonprofits in the community have done a variety of things as well. I think in light of the changes that have happened recently, I'll identify 3 specifically. The establishing of the link is new in the last couple of years. We're having a groundbreaking for the Veterans Community Project. And then obviously we just came out of a 2-year national pandemic. I think in light of those cultural changes and changes in our community, it's important that we have a group of leaders intentionally look at this issue again, not redoing everything. This task force is intentionally meant for 6 months. That means there's not time to go hire a national consultant to come in and do multiple years of work. It's intentional to reflect upon the work that has been done, meet with current stakeholders, and bring forth really recommendations that the council and mayor can act on rather than in a piecemeal approach. I thought a lot about, could I bring some items right now that the council could act upon? And I could bring some of those things that have been recommended by various groups, but I think that would be piecemeal. I think what this would do would bring more of a comprehensive approach of the council could say, we're doing these 3 things now and looking over the next 5 years to do these next couple of things. Councilor Sale and I had an opportunity to meet with the chief of police and the chief of the fire department and the director of public health to understand what they're working on and get their perspective as well. This resolution authorizes the mayor to appoint 4 members to the task force, which we believe is important because we want the administrative staff to be bought in as well and have their perspective as they're providing day-to-day leadership. And then it authorizes the chair and the vice chair to appoint other members to the task force. So I think that that's an appropriate way to allow the administration to participate and then allow each of us to participate by recommending individuals to the chair and vice chair who they can appoint to this task force. The whole goal is to put together a group of people that will intentionally look at this issue over a 6-month period and bring us a prioritized plan that we can act on as a council or mayor. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Counselor. Anyone from the public here to speak on this item tonight?
Hello, I'm David Zokaitis, and I come by pretty often to speak about different topics. I just do that. A couple of years ago, I was standing right here talking about homelessness, so I'm glad that City Council is looking at that particular problem and wants to make it better. Some of the causes behind homelessness in Sioux Falls are trauma in people's past, because trauma leads to mental illness, and that usually leads to addiction. And with addiction, well, you know, there goes your job, and there goes your career, and there goes your money. Another problem that we have is fetal alcohol syndrome, making it harder for so-called adults to actually function like adults because they have been damaged long before they were born. And poverty is, of course, rears up its ugly head and makes homelessness more of a problem. That's also related to the lack of affordable housing, which I've talked about before, as has the administration. A whole lot of problems come into homelessness in Sioux Falls, and it's really hard to work on them. But when you do build a homeless shelter, it is important that that shelter meets the homeless people where they are in their lives and in their health. Because if you expect a person to act like this and they can't do it, well, then your homeless shelter is going to fail. And some of that happens currently because, you know, if you're a chronic alcoholic, where do you stay? Because nobody really wants you. The city of Sioux Falls does have a particular facility just for the worst of the chronic alcoholics, and that's called their safe home. Some years ago, the city discovered that it's cheaper to house chronic alcoholics than it is to take them off to the hospital and put them in the ER all the time. So that was one solution to the very worst. But I think there's a gap in that the not so very worst don't really have a place to go, and their needs for chemical dependency are not being met. And that's why they're on street corners begging for money to feed their addiction, because there's no institution in town that currently takes care of that. So if you're going to take care of homelessness, you've got a lot of problems to look at, and they all relate. And to solve all of them is really quite an endeavor. I know a person who's been a chronic alcoholic for about 15 years, and she has had a long history of interacting with the police. She's been arrested, I don't know, 15, 20 times, drunken driving, failure to vacate, disorderly conduct. But if she had support from her community and from the city, if there was some way for her to deal with her addiction, I don't think she would have been in jail nearly as many times as she has. Her fundamental problem is that she can't stay sober long enough to get the help she needs to get sober. It's a real quandary for this friend of mine. And the county jail, if you want to learn how to build a homeless shelter, look at the county jail and think of them as an example of what not to do. Because if you got a problem with alcohol, you end up in jail, but then there are no mental health services in that jail. So all they do is separate you from your chemical that you're addicted to, and then they pretend that you're magically healed. Well, that's complete nonsense. All that's going to happen is when you get out of jail, you're going to go right back to your chemical of choice to self-medicate, and then the jail hasn't really accomplished anything other than charging taxpayers money, because it costs money to put people in jail. And you've kept somebody off the street, but you haven't healed their underlying problems. So when we look at homelessness in Sioux Falls, you've got a whole list of problems. You've got to meet people where they are. You need to address all of their needs. And then after you take care of people and help them out and build them up, 2 years from now, maybe they'll be like functioning normal adults. But it really takes a long-term commitment to take somebody from a homeless alcoholic into a well-functioning adult. And if you don't have the resources for that commitment, it's not going to work. But I salute your efforts. I'm really glad you're doing it. Just be aware of how much the challenge really is.
Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight?
Sierra Broussard, Sioux Falls. So I'm going to be on the other side of the fence. I'm here to tell you, and maybe the mayor, nobody's going to like it, and maybe Madeline's not going to like it either, but I'm going to tell you something. I have 11 cases open from Madeline's individuals that live from domestics to assaults. Not all of these criminal cases coming out of on Indiana Avenue is not none of her clients. When the Bishop Deli was built, they should have did what the taller ground in Minneapolis did. The diocese decided that they wanted to do their own thing, and that's why the Bishop Deli went to hell. We have to come up with a solution. I will continue to work with the police. I will continue to give evidence, and we will continue to put these people to jail. Because let me tell you something, my call volume is down by 1,481 calls per service because I police my neighborhood. I prosecute, and I testify against these individuals. They go to prison, they go to jail, they go on probation, and that's why it's cleaned up on Pedigree if y'all haven't noticed. Not jail is the answer for everybody. We have a lot of, and I'm not trying to be racist, but I'm dealing with a lot of Native Americans, a lot of traumatized reservation individuals, and I understand that people are traumatized and have all kind of stuff in their lives. But it's not enabled them to do the crime that they're doing. I cannot tell you what's going on with these open cases of people. We have sexual assaults in alleyways. We have people that will take a knife and stab each other. We have domestics going on there. Those 11 cases that is referred to the state attorney's open that are open right now that I might have to testify against, every 11 of them lived at the Bishop Deli. I have went into Whittier neighborhood. They want their neighborhood back. I am very hesitant on taking over the Whittier Neighborhood Association and cleaning up Whittier neighborhood. When I go on these streets, I don't have time. We're not breastfeeding criminals here. I will go toe-to-toe with you. You don't know how to act up in the neighborhood and you want to assault people, then you get in your butt to jail. And I will testify against you, and you come after me for it. I'm going to tell you, every single case that was prosecuted in Minnehaha County, I don't have no issues with these criminals. The ones that come back respect the neighborhood, and they don't do that criminal activity again. Addictions with alcohol. They can go right there to Falls Community Health and get some medication that is administered to them for their alcoholism, and it craves their appetite. So when they smell alcohol, they drink alcohol, they will throw it up. So that will crave your cravings for alcohol. I've done talked to Dr. Tingley about this. I have done dropped off transits to her office, and they refuse to take the medication. Panhandling's easy to do, just like prostitution's easy to do. 5 minutes, they get $25, $30. 30 minutes, they get $250. It's very easy to lay up with somebody and have an orgasm. It's very easy to sit here and panhandle and cause disruption in a neighborhood. These are Madeline's people, the 11 people that I have to go to court for and take my time out of my stuff because I don't get paid for it. They're underneath her care and her wing, and we need to do something about this. We don't need to have a Bishop Dudley that says, we're going to let people in to sleep, and then we're going to throw them on the streets and let the police deal with it. These are taxpayers' money. That $130,000 or whatever the city gives don't even touch a month of police calls to that address over there. It's just like rental properties. You got to manage your rental properties. We don't always call the police for everything. The problems that's coming from the Bishop Dudley is not all of the individuals that have been thrown out of the Bishop Dudley. I'm telling you right now. I'm not going to talk about these specific cases, but I'm going to tell you something. It's gruesome out there, and the police come and they take the alcohol and they dump it, and I have it on video, so she better not get up here and lie. They're sitting down on her property and drinking the alcohol because it's private property and the police can't do nothing about it. And I say, so why are you drinking here? Because Madeline gave me the permission. I have sat and got video and called them up and said, your people are fighting in your parking lot. Your people are drinking alcohol in your parking lot. Your people are fornicating in your parking lot. What are you going to do about the issue? Nothing. I pick up the phone and call the police and we arrest them. Madeline needs to step up to the plate and she needs to hold people accountable.
Anyone else here to speak on this item tonight? All right. Come on up.
Hi.
Good evening.
Annie Liebengood. How much do I get? An hour and a half?
5 minutes would be great.
All right. So when I first looked at the articles that presented this idea, there was a few things that struck me as duplicative. So the 10-year plan, the task force, and the study. Because we've done all this, and you know we have, and you just explained that. So at first I had reservations about the task force because we have a lot of different groups in the community already that are trying to work on these issues. But I think if Rich does what he's intending to do, which is get these groups together to collaborate, I think that getting the council together is a really good idea as well. Let's see. So anyway, I could probably get behind it if I knew that these groups were going to actually get together and collaborate, and that we were going to actually take the Augie studies that we have and review those and use that information as a template. And I'm sorry, some of you don't know me. I'm a social worker, and I used to work for Minnehaha County Human Services for 18 years. So I worked with homeless families. I worked as the housing navigator as well. So anyway, I did have a conversation with both Rich and Greg today, and I think I liked what they had to say, and so I could get behind this if we do it the right way, but we're not duplicating the other things that we have already done. So.
All right,
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this tonight? All right. Council, let's get a motion, then we can go into discussion here.
So moved, McCoris.
Second, Sale.
All right, motion by McCurris, second by Sale. Discussion amongst the council on this. Councilor Sale.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this subject. As Councilor McCarris and I have talked about it, and I've talked to other council members about this too, the object here is not to take away any of the good work that a lot of our organizations are doing. The object is maybe to listen and coordinate and augment those efforts to see where the city, along with the county and the state, as we bring them in, can help to make this situation better than it is today. That's the whole intent in this thing. We don't want to take away anybody's role that they're currently serving, any of the great nonprofits that are actually out there on the streets making things happen. So as we go forward these next few months in doing that, there will be an immense amount of listening to organizations that want to come and we will reach out to them so they can explain to us how they're working. Maybe there's some integration that we can do to make the situation better. So that's my intent. I encourage the rest of the council to get on board with this and see what we can do. Thank you.
All right, other discussion, council, on this? Councilor Neitzer?
Well, I've done a lot of work on this in the last couple days, and so I'm going to see if I can condense 3.5 pages of notes into something somewhat reasonable. This is a huge issue, and I'm frankly going to take part of the blame. I think this particular issue, it's messy, it's hard, and it's suffered from, frankly, I think from a city perspective, benign neglect. Not that there isn't things that we're doing, but frankly, I don't think that we've led on it, and we really should be doing that. So I do applaud the idea of bringing something forward to get something moving. But here's where I'm struggling. So, when I came onto the council, the Homeless Advisory Board was floundering. It had been for a while. And so in 2019, the city and the county commissioned this study from the Augustana Research Institute. And so they did the study. We paid for it. They presented it to us. The 2019 Community Collaboration to Confront Homelessness. Excellent, excellent work. It looked at what went wrong kind of with the Homeless Advisory Board, why it lost momentum, and then what do other communities do, what are best practices, and it gave us a plan. It said, do these things. This is what you need to do. And as with many other plans, it apparently went on a shelf. I looked at, and I'm going to take some blame again, because I assumed that the Accessible Housing Board, the AHAB, would replace the Homeless Advisory Board. But then I look a little closer, and it says, it has a statement at the end of it to something about to address homelessness, although the first several clauses are about housing. And I look at the board's composition. It's all experts from the housing industry, which I think is wonderful, and it's an important board, and it should exist. But this is not, and I don't think it's even fair to ask them to do this, to deal with housing and then deal with homelessness. Of course, housing has a piece of homelessness, but homelessness is so much more than just building enough houses. So I look at all of these recommendations, and I don't know if the city looked at it and just actively said, we don't agree with it, and put it on a shelf, or if it just fell to the wayside. It looks like we've taken the housing piece and we're working on that, which is bigger than homelessness, and homelessness just got left behind. And so we have all of these wonderful organizations. We have Thrive, we have the Bishop Dudley, we have all of these people doing these things, but this report tells us you need to have somebody coordinating this whole thing. You've got to have somebody where all of these are working together, and really it probably needs to be the city leading on it. I mean, we need potentially, whether it's the city or we contract it out, like a homeless champion. And one of the things that I identified, and so again, I'm for having some sort of group that's going to get this moving, because I think that's important, but this talks about reduce homelessness over a 10-year period. One of the things that it says in that plan is stop doing 10-year plans. They're not attainable, they're too long, and so that's another concern. So I guess my concern is that unless we decide that we're going to be intentional and we want to do something about homelessness, rather than just constituting task force, getting a wonderful report that says to do this stuff, and then it'll go on the shelf on top of the other plan that we didn't do anything with, I really struggle with this. I think there's things that we should be doing, but the playbook was already given to us. I don't know what's better than this particular plan. And so if this group would do something like that, where they would say, some small group that can figure out who is going to be this coordinator, who is going to run this deal. And by the way, I don't think it should be probably in planning. I don't think that's their skill set. Police and fire are apparently doing something with this. I don't think that's not their job. This is more than a law enforcement issue. It probably should be in health if it's in our wheelhouse at all. So I guess I totally agree with, we need to take action and we need to move forward and say this is going to be a priority and we're going to stop playing whack-a-mole and just doing these little things here and there. But I just don't know that another task force is going to get you anywhere except another list of things to do that are going to go on a shelf, whereas we have actionable items right now where we can take that report and we can go. It's ready to go. So if this was rewritten or we amended it, I would feel better about, we could do something with that versus yet another task force to tell us, I mean, this, and I'll maybe finish with this, recommend policies that will reduce homelessness over a 10-year period. That report, it talks about how to constitute a group together that's a wide-ranging group from people from all kinds of different industries. That would be their job, to be able to tell us the things that we should do, rather than having another study group to recommend policies. We need to get that group together, and it needs to be a permanent board, something that replaces the Homeless Advisory Board, but is done better with the right skill sets. So again, I'm totally for this goal. We need to address this problem, but I'm just struggling with, I don't think as written, it sets forth the vision or the board in which, or the ad hoc committee that I think it needs to be. So I may make a motion to defer for 1 week, because I would like to see it rewritten. So, thanks.
Other discussion on this? You're going to make a motion, or did you just make a motion?
I will make a substitute motion to defer this for 1 week.
Is there a second for that?
Second call.
Okay. Any discussion on that? Councilor Sale?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councilor Neitzer. All those questions are what led us to create this task force. Why did that not get put in place? Why were those recommendations from 2019 not done? So here we are, 3.5 years later, and nothing's been done. So it's time for action. It's time to, if this if it's written in a way that is poorly written in your judgment, I can understand that. But I don't think we don't need to defer this. I believe the recommendations of this committee will somewhat mirror the Augustana study, and I just think it's time to go forward and just let's make it happen. There's going to be a group to come together to address this, whether it's this week, next week. If we keep pushing it off, then shame on us. So that's where I'm standing. So I will vote no to defer and to move forward.
Councilor Selberg?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, as I've had a couple discussions with some folks on this too, as far as how this is tied in with the Housing Advisory Board. I've been on the Housing Advisory Board for a few years. It was decided at the time a few years ago it wasn't being very effective, and to kind of revamp that. Now, that's part of the study that was done there. But again, it was the Housing Advisory Board, and then it was changed to the Accessible Homeless Advisory Board. And basically that board has always been focused on housing. And yes, accessible housing, and yes to a point, but the homeless portion of this, again, has been very little of the subject of that group ever since I've been a part of it. Now, if it's supposed to have been or whatever, it's never been a focus of that group. Now, whether or not that study should be put with a group, and again, maybe that should be part of this conversation, but I know it was asked about, wasn't this brought up when that study was done and you guys reshuffled? Well, it was. But again, this was always focused on housing, and accessible housing is a part of this too. But I mean, that's what generally that group has always been talking about. So I guess my thought on this is, I know, Councilor McCorris, for years before he's had this position, I know he has spoken and been involved with this topic for years. And I know that probably if anybody comes at it with a heart and maybe has seen it come at a lot of different ways, it would be him as well. So I don't really think that there's a problem with discussing this and having 6-7 meetings over the next 6 months and seeing if we come up with ways to sharpen this and maybe get that study that's been done and get that working in. Maybe that's part of it. I think there is a lot of work to do, but some of the objections that I've heard in a couple of emails as well, we've already had studies, whatever, nobody's doing anything, so why are we gonna have more meetings? Well, maybe we need a couple more to get things moving a little bit better. So I don't think there's any problem with having a conversation, so I think we should just get to it, and I support it, and, but I do understand your point of view, Councilor Neitzer. It's definitely a topic. Really, it can go in any which direction, so I think we do need to sharpen what is it all about, this task force, what are we looking at, let's cut to it, and I support that way. Thank you.
Councilor Jensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also agree with Councilor Sale and Councilor Selberg in that this, and I agree with you, Councilor Neitzer, in that this is the way that the city is now going to take some leadership and bring all these groups together. I look at the task force and how they've worked in my history here on the council. We did the municipal ban task force. We met 4 or 5 times. We got that issue resolved, and they're thriving over at the pavilion. Now that is a much less complex issue than homelessness. So I think that this is something that we should be talking about often and all the time, because it's going to always be evolving. That study was accomplished in 2019. Then thereafter, the accessible housing committee was put together. That was maybe the first, part of it. And then a pandemic hit. Other things, came in front of us that we weren't expecting, and maybe that did slip through the cracks, but this is a way for us to pick it back up, dust it off, and work together with all these different individuals that have emailed us that are already doing this work, and this is a way for us to act, to lead as the city. So I will also be voting against the deferral and move this to be worked on. Thank you.
Councilor Bronco?
I think we can all agree, or hope we all can all agree, that this is indisputably a critical issue. It's an issue that we need to act on. It's my experience that, obviously Greg raised some great points, and probably there's not any ordinance that he couldn't improve with his sharp mind rewriting it, but, and no task force can possibly be a panacea. Nevertheless, I'm convinced this is a step in the right direction. People taking a good action, taking a moral action, and trying to accomplish good. So I'm very encouraged by it.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion to defer? Councilor Starr?
Yes, I want to stick to the amendment at least, or the motion to the substitute motion. 10 years in a week isn't going to help us, and that's where we're at. If we're not going to put a plan in place, and I think Councilor Majerus has done a great job of trying to bring this all together. How are we going to act? How are we going to make this a priority? I think one of the councilors told me at one point that budget is priority, and if you say something's your number one priority and you don't put your best people on it, and you don't put your funding behind it, and you don't take action, is it really your number one priority? And this starts us down the road, at least from the way government works, to take what's there and trying to accomplish it. I'd sure like to see us get results faster than waiting till the end of the year, that we have some at least answers, or the group brings something to us before we finalize the budget. Because if we don't fund it, it's not going to happen. We're back to the same thing. So in my thought process, we really need this group to act in a way so that we're ready before we finalize the budget this fall. Because if we don't, then we're into a whole nother budget year, and we're waiting around and say, this is our number one priority, but we're not funding it, and we're not going to do anything about it. But boy, it looks nice, the cover, and I'm in the printing business, so I enjoy reports getting printed on nice paper, but they get dusty rather quickly.
All right, I think we're ready to take a vote on the motion to defer this by 1 week to the June 14 meeting. Let's take a vote.
Councilmember McCurris?
No.
Neitzer?
Yes.
Selberg?
No.
Sale?
No.
Starr?
No.
Barranco?
No.
Cole?
Yes.
Jensen?
No.
All right, that fails 6-2, so we're back to the main motion, which is to approve this item. Other discussion here? Counselor Neitzer?
Very shortly. So I guess I would just ask, as this is potentially moving forward, which if it goes in the right direction, I am totally on board. But my only ask is take the report and use that as a starting point. Don't discard it. Don't say, well, there was a pandemic or whatever else. I mean, if you read the report, it talks about best practices from other communities. It doesn't talk about you should do this specific thing necessarily. Those things don't necessarily change. Get the right people in the room, and then we all have to commit, myself as well, that we're going to put our money where our mouth is, because we can do reports all day long, but to what Councilor Starr said, unless we're willing to start funding this and move forward on it and lead on it, it's going to go nowhere. So I understand some of the stakeholders in the community's frustration and their cynical thought about it. So I guess I would just ask that you would commit to taking the good work that's been done, using that report, and try to figure out how you can use the group as a catalyst to get something permanent in place, much like the report talked about, and figure out how to make that work. So I hope this is going to be a positive start, but let's actually continue the momentum. Thanks.
Counselor Sale?
I just add one thing to what Councilor Starr and Neitzer both said about the budget. I totally agree that we have to put our money where our mouth is. So if recommendations do come up, and if it does come in past the budget deadline, I'm sure we can make some adjustments that we've always done. So that's my commitment there, that we're going to do the right thing. We'll find the money. Thank you.
Other discussion here, Counselor McCurris?
One final comment. Appreciate all of the good discussion and the passion to see action. Two things. One is I have had initial conversations with Director Pritchett. Already we met and had a good conversation about just different elements that are going on, so he can kind of put it on his radar of where there might be some financial needs. So he said he's starting to think about it already, of where it might be, even if we don't get done before budget time. So just wanted to make you aware we have started that conversation. And then secondly, I'd close out by saying I'd really encourage your support for this, and look at it this way. We need to work towards 1 degree of difference. This homelessness is so complex. We could sit up here and go all around the map. Let's not let the complexity stop us from an intentional step to make 1 degree of difference in our community. And I think if we can make 1 degree of difference each year, we're going to make a huge difference over the long term. So appreciate and urge your support to move us forward as a community.
Any final discussion here? All right, let's take a vote on this, please.
Council members McCurris,
Yes.
Neitzer,
No.
Selberg,
Yes.
Sale,
Yes.
Starr,
Yes.
Barranco,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Jensen.
Yes. That passes 7-1. Any new business, council? All right, move to public input. Public input is 3 minutes per person. So anyone for public input tonight, come on up.
Robert Colby, citizen. Wake up, fasten your seatbelts. We're going to do the next installment of the news from around Siouxland. The fantastic, the caustic, and the sarcastic. Republicans are often known as the GOP, and you know what that stands for? Guns over people. Extra points are given to you if you are a member of the NRA. The NRA, no reasonable alternatives. Our mayor has put his humility classes on hold as the primary instructors will be busy. Donald the Deer and Christy the Cool have committed to other things, or maybe they should be. I understand Councilperson McCurris is giving consideration to being the Grand Marshal for the LGBTQ plus parade in Sioux Falls. Artist Banksy has declined doing a painting on the city's big blank wall. Its plans now are for a projection of movies on it. It will be known by its Italian name, the Fiasco Theater. The mayor has signed up for Vindictivist training again with the Trump University. This is on hold as Steve Bannon is also committed till January 1st. The mayor has reported to have commented that he knows what Jesus felt like as he now has his flock of mostly sheep and a couple goats that he can lead to greener pastures. Senator John has become what he accused Tom Daschle of being many years ago, but in spades. At least Daschle didn't have his hands in someone else's shorts. Senator Mikey is an aficionado and a person who is emulating Senator Pressler, maybe even less. And our representative Dusty still is the junior high kid running for president. Thanks to the liberals who wrote the U.S. Constitution and put in Amendment number 1. More installments later, film at 11 if the camera's working, Met in Poke Ursus. And I'd like to speak with Councilperson Sale after for a couple minutes. Thank you much. Live long and prosper.
All right, anyone else for public input? Come on up. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Todd Linson. I'm from Sioux Falls. I'm sorry. Please excuse my decorum.
Step up to the mic, Todd.
I don't know how to address the city council.
You're doing
I don't
great,
even
man.
know where to begin. But I'm in the trash industry here in Sioux Falls. And, well, I've been here for 10 years now from Detroit. And we got a huge problem that's going on, not with the trash industry, but with these roads. Show of hand, anybody in moderate traffic, 10:30 in the morning, who's been stopped at every traffic light coming up or down Minnesota? Come on. Anybody up or down 41st Street, every traffic light. Anybody been stopped at every traffic light? How about at 5:30 in the morning, you're waiting at a ghost light for 4 minutes to turn green on you? There's a big problem. It's not just myself, it's everybody in my industry, my counterparts at the place that I work, the other trash companies that are in town. We're driving these big trucks all around town, stopping and going at every light, accelerating 50,000 pounds, stopping at the next light. It's becoming a safety hazard. And the more and more Sioux Falls grows, the more and more that we annex, the more and more people that come here, we could put in 100 diverging diamond intersections. If the traffic lights don't get timed and something isn't done with these traffic lights, nothing is gonna change. It's just gonna get worse. Somebody needs to take issue with this stuff, and we really need to look at it so traffic can flow smoothly. People aren't stopping on a dime, getting in accidents. You know, it's just becoming a problem. It's a real problem for commercial vehicles up and down 41st Street going back and forth from the landfill. I mean, for example, just the way that the traffic lightings are on 41st Street between T. Ellis and Sertoma, there's Grinnell that comes into 41st Street from the north only. You can have 20 garbage trucks going west to the landfill mixed with other traffic. You can have 15 garbage trucks coming east from the landfill mixed with other traffic. It doesn't matter. If there's one vehicle that's on Grinnell coming from the north to 41st Street, they'll stop everybody on 41st Street. And it's not just that particular intersection, it's all over town. And something's got to be done because the algorithms really aren't working. We need to look into some serious timing of these things to help improve commerce.
All right, thanks, Todd. Anyone else tonight?
I'm David Zalkaitis, and I'm wrapping up my series on prayer. If you want to make the world a better place, start with yourself and those around you. That's what this prayer is all about. It actually started way back in 2015 for my sick nephew who wasn't doing very well, and so we pray for him. Here's my prayer for personal healing. Dear divine God, in all your many wonderful aspects, dear heavenly family and friends, we gather here together, human, angel, and divine, to worship, understand, listen, pray, and commune. For whatever purpose you have granted us this life, earthly, heavenly, spiritual, eternal life, life in all of its troubles, joys, sorrows, pains, rage, and delights, life for our missions, whatever they may be, with purposes we sometimes dimly glean. We seek your help in understanding and accepting the mission life holds. Please grant us stamina and acceptance. Enable our continued life with all of its challenges and wonders. Help us see the glow of beauty in the flowers of life, in the shape of a leaf, and the colors of sky, and the touch of those we hold dear. Help us pause to see beauty and goodness, truth and love, which surrounds us always. Jesus, our friend, please support us while we stand together in strength, unity, power, and love. Help us all direct our love for individual, family, and universal healing. Guide us in breaking the cycle of pain and retribution so we can conquer our troubles and heal our pains to experience joy in life and life in you. Healing allows us to reclaim our nature as children of earth and children of heaven. Help us arise from our struggles to re-enter your light and your love so that we may all be more dynamically content. Infuse us all with light and love, life reborn. Lead us in accepting our troubles and joys, for it is only in acceptance that healing comes. Now we better skip a little bit. Help open our eyes, dear Lord, to the truth of our beauty. Open our hearts to the experience of your divinity. We send our prayer for life onward toward Jesus and heaven as we reach deep into ourselves for love, peace, and vitality. Skip a bit. Amen. Got to have a good picture at the end, of course. And we should all try to enjoy the night. Good evening, everybody.
Anyone else tonight?
So, I don't want to take the cat out the bag because I didn't know, but we have new security here. And I guess John and them are done with the city. So we have new security here, so hopefully we get some more security in here and don't have to take the Texas out of the police department that has hundreds of cases a day and do security. So hopefully a job opening comes available so we can have security in here and won't have to take from the police departments, because you know as well as I know that the police department has a lot of hats they wear in that police department, and we're not fully staffed. So hopefully, I don't know why a lot of them just up and left at the same time, and I don't know what happened, and something happened, but we will never know. But these guys that quit were really good to the city. They retired and they kept working for the city, and they will be missed. So we have some detectives that are very wonderful here in the audience, that are detectives that handle, I think it's assault cases and crimes against persons here. And I think council needs to get to know these detectives. They're very wonderful people. I have always talked to them on the phone, but couldn't match their face, but now tonight I matched their face with the calls that I've had with cases. And these detectives go through a lot. I can't even begin to tell you the caseloads and the tragedies that happen with the Crimes Against Persons Department. So it takes a special individual to do that type of work. You just can't throw any officer in that type of detective work. But we're very fortunate in this audience to have 2 detectives, and one is new, he hasn't been here for a long time, to play that role in that police department as a detective in crimes against persons here. So at the end of the city council, I hope that you'll introduce yourselves and get to know these 2 detectives, because they're very wonderful people and they fit this role in the police department very well.
Come on up, ma'am. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and other guests. My name is Gail Swenson, and I've been a resident of Sioux Falls since I came to teach at Roosevelt High School when it opened in 1991. The city has really grown tremendously since I've been here, but there are some remnants of kind of earlier times that are still scattered throughout the city. And my purpose tonight is to talk to you a little bit about the overhead power lines in many of our older neighborhoods in Sioux Falls. I don't know if the responsibility for maintaining those power lines falls entirely with the power companies, but in my neighborhood, which has lots of overhead lines and lots of mature trees, we really took a severe punch with the last series of storms that came through. The power on my side of the street was out for 37 hours, beginning early morning, May 30th. I say my side of the street because my neighbors across the street regained their power at 7 a.m., 5 hours after it went out at 2 a.m. And during that blackout for me, as I drove around our city, I thought it was very strange that so many parts of the city were just functioning normally, while there's other people in the community that were just living in the dark. You know, I'm very grateful for the linemen. I'm very grateful for the people who have worked so hard to get the trees off the lines, to get the lines back up, to get our power going again. But you know, if those lines were buried underground, we wouldn't have to be in that situation. We wouldn't have to have fallen trees taking down power lines and creating lots of work for power companies. You know, a few years ago, the city of Pierre made a commitment, and they took a few years and they buried all of their power lines in the city. Now, I don't know if there is any possibility of a city-private corporate partnerships here, or like I said before, who really has the ownership here. But I think that the task of burying the power lines would be worthy. I think it would be a good thing to do to update the infrastructure of our city. And I think it would make all of our neighborhoods equal in that sense and make all places in our city a desirable place to live. On May 31st, Phil Schreck, Chief Meteorologist at KSFY, tweeted this. The National Weather Service of Sioux Falls says that they have issued a combined 187 tornado and severe storm warnings through the end of May this year.
Thanks for your input. You appreciate it. We got a 3-minute time limit on public input.
Okay.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for your time. I hope you'll consider.
If you want, ma'am, you can also just email mayor@siouxfalls.org and we can explain how the utility companies have the jurisdiction over the line placement. You bet. Anyone else here for public input tonight? All right, seeing none, I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Jensen, second by Bronco. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.
Not that I'm calling you a mouse, that wasn't the intent.